Hey ladies, welcome back to Black Girl Epiphanies. And this is the 4th episode, and it's also part 2 of what would have happened if we forced the men to take their kids and raise their kids. Now, we're going to try to make today's episode a little shorter, but I am so excited, guys. I'm starting to feel more motivated. I feel like I'm on a roll, so I'm going to start pumping out more content, and hopefully we can get some ladies to call in, leave some voice messages if you found me on my podcast. So let's get into it. Part 2 of what would have happened. This is Black Anthropology Talk. So yes, ladies, let's get into it. So yes, after I listened to my podcast, my initial episode on this, I listened. It was more of like a rant. So I decided to come with a more structured part 2 and a little more, it's more thought out. So we're talking about, in the other episode, we talked about what the community would look like right now if we had them take their kids. But on this episode, I'm going to dive into, is this something we should evolve into? Is this something we should practice right now? Is this something we should get into? Okay, so when I initially came up with this idea to do this podcast, it was an epiphany at the time. It was an epiphany. But this is something that I've actually been practicing for about 6 years now. And I think that's why I haven't had any kids at all. And why I haven't had any suitors that have even been on my level to even have a kid with in my life. Because my number one rule for the last 6 to 7 years of dating, and I let guys know this up front. I mean, I'm so blunt with it that this could be a part of our first date conversation every first date. I know it's a little extreme, but I let them know I'm not interested in having more kids. That's not my dream to have more kids. But if I meet someone, I fall in love, and we really want to try to build together, and I end up pregnant before the baby is even 2-3 months or even a month. Well, we usually find out we're pregnant around 5 to 6 weeks. So when I do find out I'm pregnant, and I would need him to sign a contract saying that after 6 months of me, after I have the baby and the baby turns 6 months old, that he would be responsible as a father to take his child and raise his child. And I would be there to help whenever I can, financially responsible. I'm still the mom. I'm not just abandoning the kid. But it's basically leaving him as a single father instead of leaving me as a single mother. And when I tell a lot of guys that, they layer off because they're like, hold on, she's not about to leave no kids with me. But I would need them to sign that contract before I decide if I'm going to go through with this pregnancy. And that's been my rule, probably even, I'm going to say safely at least 5 to 6 years I've been letting guys know that. Because I'm in my late 30s. I don't really want to have any more kids by anyone unless it's serious. And I'm really not interested in it at all. But I'm the type that if I fall in love and it's a really good guy, who knows? So that contract would have to be signed. So let's dive into it. What would we look like if we were in the middle? If we decided to do this right now, not in the middle of it. Because we're definitely not in the middle. We're the single parents. Us Black women, we're the single parents right now. So what would happen to us, like as Black women? Will it make our character decline? Would it make our sense of humanity, of just, our humanitarian, like we're such humanitarians as Black women, like we care about humans so much. It's very rare to find a super racist Black woman. Like we don't have it in our blood, in our system to just hate people or hate on people. Some of us are competitive, some of us have jealousy streaks, but we're good people. But what would have happened if we do it right now? I feel like right now, if Black women, if we did evolve into normalizing leaving them kids with them, we would be okay. We would still have hearts. We would still be empathetic. We would still be loving and caring. We would still donate our times to our kids. We wouldn't just pick them up for Instagram pictures or snaps or Facebook posts. We would actually be decent parents. Not saying all of us would still, some of us probably might just get so happy with the situation that we might just really kind of abandon. Just means like move to the other side of the country and I see you once or twice a year. That's kind of like abandonment when a parent does that, when they move away from the parent with the child. It feels like that, and the child is basically abandoned, whether it's in a bad way or it had to be done for a job. But I ultimately feel like Black women would be fine. We would be fine as single, as mothers on the side, as baby fathers in the baby father shoes. We would be just fine. We would be great parents, still loving, caring. If you needed us to pick our kids up for school some days, we would do that. Drop them off at your home. I feel like we would be just fine. So just to answer that, because I had got into a talk with one of my bros, and he was saying, well, what would have happened to Black women? So I ultimately feel like we would be just fine. I would love for somebody to call in on the next show and let me know, would you feel like we would be just fine? Things would change for us, definitely. We would become different characters, but I don't feel like we would be the type of women out here. We would be having street wars, gangs, killing each other, just abandoning kids. No, we wouldn't. Because we are just natural nurturers. That's what we do. So let's get into it. So now we can get into the main question of this episode. Should we evolve? Is this something we should seriously consider? Not just an internet rant, not just us talking about it and just thinking about it. Should we actually evolve? Should we normalize giving them their kids and making them raise them? And I actually think that we should do it on a slow pace, because we have to think before we just give our kids away. We have to think, because it's one thing to co-parent and it's another thing to just say, here, this is your full responsibility, but I'm here for 20% or 10% of help. Like the kind of help we have right now as single moms, about 20%. Oh, here's the money, or a weekend visit once a month. If we decide to do that, because every mom shouldn't be leaving their kids. If he's in a gang war, a lot of these guys are in gang wars, street wars, or just in bad money competitions with other men. Who's going to be the best? Who's going to have the most women? Those are not the type of men you want to leave your kids with. The mentally unstable, you know who's mentally unstable. Most Black women have common sense. It's about using it. That's one of my favorite sayings. We just have to learn how to use it on a regular, for everything. We have to learn how to use our common sense for everything. You can tell if a man is mentally unstable, visibly, emotionally. You'll know if he's mentally unstable. You can tell. Or if he's on drugs bad. Of course. you would have to make sure that he is not on any type of crazy pills, perks, drinking promethazine, or anything crazy like that. So no, every woman should not be leaving her kid with the dad. So make sure you consider those top three things whenever you're thinking, is this even a guy? First of all, those should be your top things before you even have sex with that person. Is he in a gang war? Is he a street nigga? Is he mentally unstable? Or is he on drugs bad? If it's of those three things, don't even get pregnant by him. But this is just if you end up. Okay? Honey, we're going to start making better choices in this world. So we went over, should we evolve? And we came to the conclusion, or I came to the conclusion, or anybody that agrees with me came to the conclusion that yes, we should evolve. We should give these men their children. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, what's wrong with her? Why is she just coming up with this crazy idea? It's not a crazy idea. It's their kids just as much as it's our kids, right? All because we held them and pushed them out does not give us more responsibility. Like I said, we took the responsibility. We wanted the responsibility. We wanted to keep our kids safe. So now we're going to ask the question, what are the benefits of giving these men their kids? Like the real benefits that we might not actually start to see for maybe a decade after we really start handing these kids over to these men. And this is just a few that I came up with. Number one, I said in the first episode, we will see more responsible men. Not just dads, more responsible men. These young boys will see their dads grow up as leaders of their household. They will see their dads as responsible mentors, leaders, of the community. They won't just view their dad as someone who comes to pick them up on the weekend. So they will be seen as responsible people, and they will be giving a lot of responsibility. When you have to take care of kids, like I said in the first episode, it takes a lot of responsibility. This isn't something that's for the weak at all. I know black women make it look easy, but it's not. I don't know how we do it. And all of us at such a large scale make it look like it's so easy, but it's really not. They'll be more motivated to be successful. If they have to go to these parent-teacher meetings and they have to realize that they have to set their kids off to college, or if they realize that their kids don't eat unless they do something, their kids won't have a roof over their head unless they make that move, then that will make them more motivated people, more motivated to be successful. 3, they'll be more dependable. We need more dependable men, not just dependable dads. A woman needs to be able to depend on a man. To be a dependable person, it's a certain level of empathy and just being a good human. It's just a certain level of empathy that it takes just to be a dependable person, just to be able to drop what you're doing and be there for somebody else. And black men will start to understand, because like we hear a lot, and it is true, like they're mainly only loyal to themselves. They don't have any obligations to anybody in this world until we start handing them kids over to them. Then they will be more dependable. They will, and another one, number 4, they will become more resourceful men. Maybe they might see the school that they're in and they're like, maybe they'll get tired of going to those. This is what I was going to say at first. Maybe they'll get tired of going to those parent-teacher meetings and the white schools. And maybe they'll say, wow, maybe we should build our own school. Maybe we should come together and build a school for our community. Maybe we should branch out and make a community and build. See, they'll become more resourceful. Like, Like I said, I really do agree that segregation made black men very lazy because they didn't have to build their own schools, their own hospitals. We just say, "Oh, we'll just use the white communities' hospitals and schools." The women, we just couldn't grasp building schools and stuff. We were too busy raising kids. But our men will definitely become more resourceful if they realize the type of doctors. They have to take the kids to doctor's appointments, and they realize, wow, this is a white doctor. He doesn't really have the best interest for my child. It would be better if we had black clinics, black hospitals. So maybe they'll become more resourceful. I'm not too sure about that one, but that would be something that could happen, which might take another 100 years. But the other ones, we'll probably see results pretty quick. We'll have a safer community, because if he's worried about picking his kids up from school at 3:00, is he gonna be thinking about going to rob somebody? If he has to have his kids tucked in the bed at 8:30, 9:00 at night, is he gonna be out shooting up somebody mama house? No. We will have a safer community when they have something to occupy their time. What is the most time-consuming thing on earth? Raising a kid for 18 years. That is one of the most time-consuming activities ever. So if we give them their kids, they will have other things to occupy their time, which will also give us a safer community. Okay? So that's that on that. So now let's get into, is it safe? We already talked about if he's a drug dealer, if he's in the streets, or if he's on drugs, or, any of those top 3 bad choices. No, you don't leave your kids with mentally ill, mentally unstable, drug users. No, you don't leave your kids with them. But other than that, it is a very, very safe choice. Okay? A home with a father as the leader, even if he's just by himself, is a way safer home in 2022 and beyond than being in a home with a black woman alone with kids. Do you see what I'm saying? For instance, like having a teenage daughter. Do you know how many predators it is out here on these streets, on the internet, trying to talk your daughter in, trying to see what she's doing, trying to start her to doing drugs, trying to sex traffic her? Now, the odds of a little girl being sex trafficked, kidnapped, stalked with a father, I would just guess, are substantially lower than it would be for a teenage daughter who's living with the mom. I have a teenage daughter, and these little kids out here be trying me too. And sometimes I just really wish I did have a father in the house, especially for these teenage years, because this is when times get rough and hard. So is it safe for girls? Yes, it definitely is. And it also it's great for their schooling too. For some reason, kids just listen to their dads more. They respect them more. Moms, we're just like yelling with empty threats most of the time. Let's just keep it real. My generation, we don't beat on our kids no more. We might pop them every now and then, but we do not beat on our kids. So basically, it's just us telling them what we're going to do, and we probably only do it 50% of the time. So they're looking at us as empty threats. So having a dad would make them salute. You see what I'm saying? They would have more respect. They would grow up with more respect for authority, which would also result in a safer community, especially when it comes to them raising the boys. We need them to be the role models for their sons. I don't care how smart you are as a woman, how strong of a black woman you are, how many men you've dated, how many brothers you have. That little boy needs a strong male figure in his life who is going to mentor him the right way. And who better than his dad, okay? So, yes, it is safe to give your kids to their dad as long as they're not on drugs, mentally unstable, or in some type of street gang, or just running the streets. Don't matter. He can still raise his kids too. Don't hold that as an excuse. I'm talking about gang violence and shooting. Okay? So let's move on. Okay, so this is going to be the ending part of my show. We've pretty much went over all the topics. I just want you ladies to realize that them being broke does not matter. Them having a regular minimum wage job does not matter. You're going to push that man to be greater. Even if he's not your man, he's going to be a great dad. Once he realizes that he has all that responsibility on his shoulders, he's not going to have time to go to the club and shell out money every weekend, because he's going to realize, oh, no, that money I just gave to that dancer, that was 3 pair of shoes for my kids. Let me pick this money back up and go home, or let me just take my butt home and stay up out of this club, you know? So never think that a man is too broke to keep his kid, because you can always financially help from a distance if you have to. You know we're willing to do it. We are hustlers, and we're not going to just be giving away free money, but we will make sure that our kid is taken care of. We would make better step parents, and we would be more willing to be step parents than they are. Let's just keep that real too. And yeah, that's about it. I really just want to get into the last part of this show, the very, very last part of this show, where this is how my life is. I'm doing this podcast about this subject. I get in my car this morning. I cut it on. When I cut it on, Shade 45, Sirius XM radio was on. I always listen to the Sway in the Morning show on the way to the gym. And there's this single dad on there. A single dad, y'all, of 8 kids, just out of nowhere. I was like, oh my God. I could not press the record button fast enough, but I did catch some of his speech and his testimony. Really what it was is a testimony. He's a single dad. He's a single dad of 8 kids. He has custody of 2 of his kids, but he pays child support for the other 6. And here's his story.
Single father, I have 8 children in total. So with the fact that I have 8 children, I have to pay child support for the rest of my other children. So at the end of the day, like, I've got a rare experience of being on both sides of the platform in terms of, you know, being a mom and a dad, plus also the system, you know, bringing the full front. And I understand, you know, I have to pay my way when it comes to this and so forth. You know what I'm saying? So it went through a lot of times where, everything was taken from me to the point where I couldn't even take care of the 2 that I had with me. And I've been in front of judges, and judges have literally told me, like, you know, I didn't tell you to make all these babies, so it is what it is, figure it out. So within the last year, we were homeless again. And, you know, I'm bouncing around from house to house and so forth and everything. And, you know, long story short, 30 days after us being kicked out, we were able to find a place, right? We've been in that place, maintaining that place, in that space. And let me tell you something, like, I've been in this space and I've been able to, you know, sometimes I haven't been able to, you know, get all my bills up in time, but It seems like God always comes through when I need him to. So my daughter's birthday was like a week ago. So, and I've been struggling to pay my bills and so forth, and I'm just figuring it out, you know. So when my daughter's birthday, you know, comes up, but for somehow, some way, I was able to actually provide her with a birthday party, you know, the festivities and things like that.
Nice.
And so forth and everything. And
fun.
It was just a beautiful vibe, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to that. So, you know, I want to, you know, I'm thankful to be in this space to be able to, you know, just talk about the power of God. So I thank you guys for allowing me to be able to tell my story.
Absolutely, man. You're amazing, brother. Your willingness, your obligation, your yearning to take care of your kids, man, as a single father. I salute all the fathers that tune in. The mothers, too.
Yeah. Of course,
because that goes without being said, but there's a lot of amazing fathers out here doing amazing things, and I don't like that narrative that folks are deadbeat. Paul know he got 8 kids. He got to take care of all his kids. He's working for it. He not just sitting and praying either, HB. He praying and
single
working.
Father, a real single father out here struggling. But he made it. He was able to come up with a birthday party for his baby.
And so I think the way you started the conversation, Paul, needs to be noted. You said sometimes God is enough. All the time God is enough. And it's just enough for you to get by and provide the stability for your kids. So regardless of the hardship you go through, they're aware of it, but they got stability in their life. That's because you're working, brother. Salute to you, man. Salute to you, Paul. You a citizen.
It's Sway in the morning.
Come on.
It's Sway in the morning.
8 of them.
Did y'all hear that? That was a real single dad right there. He said that he has 8 kids and he's raising 2 of them, paying child support for 6 of them. Okay? That is a real single dad right there. But do you hear how gracefully he is carrying this responsibility? Do you hear the gratefulness in this man's voice? The gratefulness just to be able to make it. I don't know if I caught it, but earlier in that talk, he said he's the mother.